And I'm Sudhir Bhojwani, CEO and co-founder of ORO. Before you say, how does it feel? You are in the back room, and you get a text message literally 2 minutes before I came here. One of your other customers got a go live green light. It's freaking awesome, so I'm excited. So it was a fun, but I tell you, I was pretty excited last night too. I'm a basketball fan, a sports junkie, love Knicks, but first time I cannot tell which team I really want to win. I don't hate Wemby, I don't hate Spurs, they both seem amazing.
All I can say is that DPW is not a week later, because the FIFA madness next week, it will be crazy. I would say like my Uber driver and I are happy it's not a week later. Let's get going. So today, when we were thinking about the theme of a presentation, we called it the big remodel. And the idea was basically that when you think about an analogy, we were at a point where a couple years ago we were experimenting with AI agents, reacquainting ourselves with dictionary words like prompt and hallucination. And then we went from there to figuring out, okay, this actually kind of works, and there are proof points here. But now we realize that, hey, this is not an interior decoration project. We're not just buying some software or some couch or figuring out if the island works. This is actually a big remodel. You got to gear up for a big remodel, for a big impact, because it's about scale.
I think what became clear is prompt engineering, we all have done it, right? It's fun, but painful at the same time. What is very interesting now is, how do we deliver the value to our users? It's not enough to say, I use AI agents. The reality is, I've been in procurement space since 2010 now. For some of you, even longer. The fundamental thing that users don't understand procurement, or the role of procurement, is still true. The user experience is still a challenge. So the foundation has not changed that we need to deliver. But what we can do with AI, we can do it confidently, I believe. AI has come to a point where we can solve this problem, we can scale this, and that's what we're going to see in 2020, second half of 2027, and really deliver value to our end users.
But the reason why it's a big remodel is also because it's not just slapping on some technology, doing the plumbing, and things are done. You have an opportunity to really rethink. What is it that you really need? Do you need another bathroom? Do you need another tool? Or do you need to actually redesign the flow and actually remove some things and really rethink the end-to-end experience? And that's what we're here to talk about. And to do that, I'm going to bring on stage Adrian and Wilbert from Coca-Cola.
All right. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Wilbert. All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wilbert Amador. I have 15 years of experience in procurement. And in the past 5 years, I have been driving the P2P transformation agenda for indirect spend in collaboration with my partner in crime, Adrian.
Nice meeting you all. I'm Adrian Quinteros. I'm the Vice President for the Purchase to Pay Global Ops at Coca-Cola. Been 20 years almost of experience, and I need to admit that I'm a finance guy, so you might be asking why am I here talking in a procurement conference. But the reality is that, as Wilbert was mentioning, that what really made a difference on what we're going to be presenting is the joint collaboration between finance and procurement, along with all the other functions within P2P end-to-end. So very excited to be here. So as you see, a little bit of explanation about Coca-Cola, because sometimes there are confusions. So as you see, most of these brands you might be familiar with. We have 32 brands that reach the $32 billion brands. So we've been growing and growing some of these over the course of the year. But the reality is that we have almost 170 other brands that haven't reached this market yet. So the overall expectation that we have is through these 4 obsessions to really increase the length of that list. So this is not something unique to us. You probably have the same obsessions. But the reality is that for us, this is what we do with not only obsession, but also discipline. So when we talk about that, is what does it mean for a purchase-to-pay organization like the one that we lead? So most of our complexities come from the fact that we have 9 operating units trying to market these brands across different markets and making them grow aggressively in 200 plus countries. So we have a lot of suppliers, we have a lot of purchase orders, invoices, and you might wonder, where's the rest? You're the Coca-Cola Company, why those numbers? And the reality is that that's when we call the Coca-Cola system. So we manage marketing and brand building, but we also partner with franchise vaulters who do the final product, sales and distribution. So that's why most of our complexity comes from this uniqueness of our global footprint and the 9 operating units that grow those brands, but not from a massive organization like it would be if we were to manage the bottler business.
It's kind of interesting. When we started working with them, I had not fully understood the concept of a bottler, let's call it. Now I do. I did not understand the impact of 9 operating units, which is not that easy to imagine even. It's really hard. 200 plus countries. But Wilbert, maybe you can tell us how do people see purchasing and procurement overall at Coca-Cola?
Our users perceive the P2P or purchasing process as an administrative necessary evil that was required, to initiate a project, but something that was not what the work that mattered most, for them. So basically, that is how they perceive that specific part of the process or activity. However, if we talk to finance or even procurement, when we see the process that we have, which is for sure complex and many activities, many manual steps, many hands-offs among the different steps, is we understand from where they are coming from when they say that it's a necessary evil, due to this super complex process flow.
Well, it sure looks evil. I hope most of it is necessary. So, but this is a reality, right? When you have 9 operating units and this complexity, I mean, you cannot escape this complexity. This is what it is.
But the reality is that the purchasing process is needed when you execute the project, and is not a siloed activity. It's basically part of the whole end-to-end. Now.
Yeah, so what did we do differently this time? So I need to admit, as a finance guy, usually what we do is we try to understand the problem, we go to a dark room and we try to fix it. And then we expose it to the users and they react and telling us that we understood nothing. But what we did is basically we did that, of course, but then before we start doing anything and trying to solve it, we had a very strong focus on design thinking. So as you can see, we interviewed a wide variety of people, so from all the OUs, from all geographies, from all different profiles. So we went through the interviews to really put a test what we understood the issue was. So we went back and make sure that there were no gaps in our process maps, that all the pain points were identified, and at the end of the day, we walk out with some ideas on how we were able to solve those problems. And the outcome of that was something that it was quite eye-opening, because we were under the impression that we understood perfectly the problem. We had all the ideas. We wanted to start getting into solution mode, and then we saw the summary, and all of a sudden, in some of the steps, they came lower than we expected. We thought that we were great in some, that we thought we were awesome in others, that we thought that we were struggling, and it all came completely the opposite of what we were expecting. And that definitely did not change what we wanted to achieve and how we wanted to achieve, but it really helped us to prioritize one solution over the other and really put focus on, out of the end-to-end journey, where is the user really getting frustrated? Where is their energy being drained? So when they come to the piece that my team manages, they come fully exhausted with no patience at all. So we wanted to look at it end-to-end and really go after the ones that were really going to make a difference with them.
Tell you, when I started looking at this slide, we saw the results of the interviews that they did. Hey, as it turns out, sourcing is doing pretty well. Or is it? Or is it? It's a fair question.
Yeah.
With the follow-up questions on the interviews, we understood that in most of the cases, they were not even reaching out to procurement. And that's why they were so pretty happy about it.
That was a reality. So one thing that stood out to me is,
Ignorance was bliss.
Yes.
well, that's also good. But more importantly, I think operations hit every single person in the company every single day. So while we can talk about strategy till cows come home, until we fix our operations and make it really better for a user, they're not going to feel good about it. Operations is just as important as strategy. That's what stood out to me. And what other stood out to me is procurement in the eyes of a user includes multiple stakeholders. To them, this whole thing looks like procurement, even though it's not owned by procurement in many scenarios.
So that was a great start to the project. Let's solve for the valley of despair.
Yeah. So as we were talking at the beginning, what was the perception they had? So for them, it was like, I need my purchase order. I need this get done by yesterday. I need to pay tomorrow. Where do I go next? And then they reached out to me, and then I was policing and saying, you haven't done any single step that came before, so you are pretty delayed. So what we were after was the idea of how can we build the experience, because it's practically impossible. We're trying to teach them and train them and had forums, and they were always missing something, and it was not their fault. It was just how we designed that experience, or maybe did not design that experience in the first place. So what we came up with is the concept of idea to pay. So we wanted to build a platform that was digitally hand-holding them through the time that they had the idea that they need to buy something, they don't know where to get it from, they don't know who to engage, they don't even know where to start. So we want to have a platform that will allow them to get the starting point at that specific time frame and really guide them through every single step. So that's why we're trying to turn that necessary evil, because it was perceived as an admin task, and now being a strategic partner to guide them through, to move fast with agility and trying to minimize cost with the proper involvement of all the different teams, which are part of the end-to-end journey when it comes to P2P. So,
Cool. Why don't we do this? Actually try to see this in action. What stood out to us again was, for many users, journey doesn't start with creating a requisition. I mean, God forbid they even understand what a requisition is. You should do a survey. How many people know what a PR is? Good luck.
I know what an invoice is.
Yeah, you have to pay it, so you know what invoice is. But then, what a sourcing is. Journey does not start with sourcing or a PR. It starts with an idea. Why don't we see this in action a little bit? Doing a demo on main stage is a lot of fun. I like it. Hopefully it works as well, yeah? So let's start with me as a user. I'm logged in as an end user. I'm going to take different scenarios because user journey can start at different points in time. Let's assume I am a marketeer who has a proposal in hand from my favorite agency that I've been working with. I can upload a proposal in the system. I don't know what I'm supposed to do exactly. Am I supposed to work with procurement? Am I supposed to work with finance? Who am I supposed to work with?
Why do you need to know that?
I mean, that's the point of the story, Lalitha. Give me a chance. So we upload a proposal. System will try to understand what the proposal is. We know the details of the proposal. It tells you, hey, it's a marketing. It knows it's a service. AI went to work. Because it figured out it's a marketing, it doesn't call this an item in a requisition. It calls it a deliverable. That's the language that marketing understands. If I'm buying a service which has deliverable, I don't call it an item. I call it a deliverable. Exactly what it does. Adrian, I remember for marketing, you guys did a lot of work in this area, isn't it?
yes. Absolutely.
So the next thing we is, system is trying to figure out by leveraging Agentic, does this supplier even exist in the system? As it turns out, this is a new agency that our company has never done business with. It extracted the contact details automatically from the proposal. I don't have to do anything. I can continue. I say, okay, this looks all right to me. Now it's validating if the contact details are good. This is in the realm of possibility. Now, obviously, I entered some garbage contact. Again, AI is going to work, trying to understand the Coca-Cola policies, trying to understand the process. What should be the next step? This truly is, AI can do this. I was talking to somebody yesterday. They were asking, the person was asking me the question, how confident are you that AI can always be predictive? Is it always 100% doing the same thing? Or it does 90% of the time the same thing, other 10% it does something else? Can I be sure that it's always the same thing is the question. That's where we invest our time to figure out where the boundary is in terms of AI. How do we make it predictable so that you know what experience your users are going to get? In this case, AI knows somebody's trying to buy marketing services. It says, hey, what campaign are you going to use for this? It looks at the history and figures out which are the active campaigns. Based on the active campaigns, it gives a few options. Now, once I know the active campaign, I can also figure out what other things we need to collect from the user. Sometimes it is also slow. AI is sometimes also slow.
One of the big ideas that the team had, which I think really zooms in on how do you design for experience, is language and vernacular really matters. Calling it a deliverable, calling it a campaign, and not generic words like item and shopping cart. I mean, it's pretty awful to put a contractor in a shopping cart. It's very dehumanizing experience at the end of the day. But this language really mattered. And trust was a very important point of the user experience when the AI is essentially confirming to you and you're seeing the proof of that side by side. So that trust encourages the experience to say, hey, I'm okay to go along in this journey. This is like letting the Waymo driver drive and sitting back and not hovering over it. So the trust was a very important point of the design point.
In this case, the budget check is already done. Budget could be in your SAP, could be in Oracle. Can we have an AI that goes and does a budget check through protocols like MCP? It can. This is absolutely what it is doing right now. It's using MCP to go talk to SAP and figure out where the budget exists.
And Adrian, being in finance, I think you guys kind of care about is there money in the bucket.
There has to be there before you spend it.
Totally.
And boom, it tells the user how long the process is going to take, what are the steps involved in the process. As it turns out, I'm trying to use a new agency, so I may have to onboard a supplier. But user doesn't have to worry about this. System will do this. One other thing I like to say about this, while I did this whole thing in our UI, people ask me the question, is this how the user journey actually begins? Can the user journey start directly in Claude? Quote unquote headless experience? Short answer is absolutely yes. Headless experience is real. I believe procurement, finance have the best opportunity to integrate the processes into Claude, into Copilot, into Gemini, whatever the tool of choice might be. But that's where the user is. We need to go where the user is instead of trying to force them to come to our systems. So this was the first example. One other example I like to show you is, instead of you watching me type, is what if user doesn't have a proposal from a supplier and they want to do $1.3 million purchase with a supplier they have in mind. Very different journey. I'm not spending $80,000 anymore. I'm spending $1 million with an agency in mind. What happens when $1 million? Do people have to engage with procurement? How does it work?
They have to do a lot of things which they don't even know about. Yeah.
Say, I will say, I want to do ADLC process, whatever. I'm being fast. Now it will figure out what are the other things that the user may have to do. And what you will see here is, in all these examples, user doesn't just do procurement. They have to do finance. They have to do risk. They may have to do a lot of other things that are needed from an end-to-end process. Because somebody is spending $1 million, you don't just go spend $1 million willy-nilly. 80,000 maybe, $1 million probably not. In this case, it's saying, hey, what is the cost center you're going to use? I say, sure. Let's keep marching forward. Can you... Hey, Adrian, I know you guys have a process called RFA. What is that, Wilbert? RFA, what is RFA?
RFA is extraordinary approval that is required when some transactions have a specific or meet a specific criteria. And sometimes happens that they forget to request that and they go to the PO, and guess what? The PO cannot be approved because an RFA is missing. But
Must be very rare though.
yeah, happens sometimes, no, from time to time. But yeah, we have, or previously we were expecting our users to be the human integrator among the different systems and different steps, no?
Again, now in this case, the journey is different. User has to spend $1 million. The reality is, if you look at some things here, we didn't ask 1,000 questions to the user. User simply said, I want to spend $1.2 million. I'm going to do something called ADLC, whatever that means. And yes, I have done an RFA. That's all. 3 pieces of information that I could have sent in an email, actually. Which is what happens today. People talk to sourcing by sending an email or sending a phone call. It could do the same thing, equally easy. And that starts the process. Procurement is going to be engaged. All will do the text calculation, so on and so forth. So I wanted to give you 2 journeys where the starting points are totally different. One with a proposal, one with, I want to spend $1.2 million. So let's go back to the slides at least. This is what we're calling idea to pay. How do we capture the imagination? Not just when user wants to cut the PO. That's too late. I would argue running a sourcing event is also too late. Nobody thinks about running a sourcing event as the first thing. Let's be honest about it. People think about how do I go about completing what I want to do. And that's what we're calling idea. That's why we don't believe intake is even the right word, actually. Idea is the right word. Lalitha?
So let's talk a little bit about the accomplishments and learnings. First of all, congratulations. You're live in more than 100 plus countries now.
Yeah, either. So in our case, we didn't want to have a pilot. We didn't want to go small. So we actually, when we were talking with them, they noticed that we have a very aggressive approach. And we were basically had the expectation to go live in all OUs, every single country, for all indirect procurement. So yes, the complexity was there, but we had standard processes, we had standard policies, we had standard control. So for us, it was like the obvious next step. So when we were doing that, I think that you were also surprised by the number of people that was part of the conversations, because this is an initiative that was finance-led, but we cannot do anything by ourselves. So we brought every single function that is part of the end-to-end P2P journey. So we got people from legal, from marketing, from finance, of course, and we're all trying to solve the issue that was impacting our users. So definitely that was completely necessary, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to solve this in isolation. So that's definitely one thing.
It was a master class in stakeholder engagement right from get-go. Like users were seeing demos from sprint 1. It was just brilliant, the way that was executed.
Yeah.
I would like to highlight also that key component as part of this initiative was the change management. And even though one of the key non-negotiable principles for Idea to Pay was we want a solution that won't require training. If it requires training, we fail miserably, no?
Walk up UI.
Yeah. And we took advantage of what our users and in general, what is being consumed by our users in social media, which is normally short videos, reels, etc. And we took advantage of that to approach our users with that strategy, with that approach, creating short videos, telling a story about what we were delivering, why, etc. Rather than training them through videos, we were basically communicating the change that was integrating the end-to-end process.
So what's next, Adrian? More problems to solve or more cool problems to solve?
There's always something new. So definitely now we implemented ORO in a very short time frame. So we went with a minimum viable product that now we're trying to build upon. So definitely, we have a very strong agenda. As you can see, being able to speak to our marketeers, as I was saying at the beginning, we build brands, so obviously making the life easier to the marketing team is the most crucial objective we have. Fast and easy supplier collaboration, absolutely, especially with our marketing agencies. So definitely there's a lot in the pipeline, especially as we talk about agentic solutions. Definitely we need more of those to gain some speed. And obviously the touchless piece that will entail. And tax, well, we operate in 200 plus countries, so definitely that is on top of our head. It drives an amazing complexity to our operation. So there's a lot, and while we do this, it's always with a premise that you saw on a prior slide about how we can keep user-centric. How can we keep solving these problems without adding complexity to the end user, or adding more steps? So definitely that's the cool journey that we have ahead.
Cool. Awesome. A lot more work to do here, but thank you so much, Adrian, Wilbert.
Yeah.
We wanted to really focus on how, as well, a little bit, how they went about doing it. So thank you so much for sharing the story. Thank you.
Everyone.
Yeah, and we'll get started on the project plan pretty soon.
Yeah.
More cool problems.
More cool problems.
Last thing we want to talk about is, this we hear every single time. Should I build this? Should I buy this? Claude is real. Codex is real. Cursor is real. But should we build it? That's a different question.
I mean, one thing that is very clear is that unlike SaaS, classic SaaS software, customers are very precise. I want a bespoke experience for my business. I don't want a standard best practices that, whichever SI is recommending, they want a bespoke experience. And speed is super critical.
Same thing we hear. Hey, can I leverage Agentic in a unique way? I have unique data. Can I use my data to serve me, not the whole community? I have to have something advantage. Last but not the least, what is the total cost of ownership? We have seen some SaaS implementations go for 2 years, some even 10 years. And that's not fun for anybody.
Well, you should stick to the common core, then we'll be all good.
So total cost of ownership is an important factor. Look, when you look at the whole decision, look, writing code is easy. We use a lot of Claude. We use a lot of Cursor. We use all of those codecs. We use all of it. But the reality is, in a software development process, the development cost is only 10 to 15%. More than 50% of the cost is actually in maintenance. What you do with it. So that's what the decision point is. It's not simply about, can I build? Yeah, everybody can build. That's not even a question.
And basically, structured and unstructured collaboration is super important for a human experience that can drive the users. So it cannot all be about precise, only structured. Some of it is loose, right? Like, hey, what do you think? And you need to have the human engage in different ways. Every sourcing manager is going to do things differently. Governance is important because that's how companies operate. This is something that you have to be compliant to, your board has to report on. And trust.
And I think trust, because procurement involves suppliers, as it turns out. And suppliers have people working for them. I worked with a company that had 1 million users across their supplier base. Managing trust or security across 1 million users of your suppliers is not that easy. So we do believe you will have to solve the security problem, the trust problem. Doesn't matter whether you build or buy. These problems need to be solved. That's more important point we wanted to make. Lastly, we started the company with a mission. How do we humanize the procurement experience? The conclusion we have come to is the user experience does not start with creating a PR or raising a sourcing request or a contract request. It starts with an idea. So that's the thing we are trying to say. Hey, let's start with an idea, bring the user into the system, let's integrate ourselves into Claude, into Gemini, so we deliver the best experience.
Thank you for your time.